I would say that the nostalgia critic gives me the opposite feeling, where I'm not cringing in like just a pure painful like ew way, and I'm also not getting any feel good feelings from it. The angry video game nerd is different, or no, the nostalgia critic is different because he gives me like a feeling of actual fear, and I'm unsettled by him to the point where it's like I feel like there's. It's not that he's completely ignorant of what he's doing, like some of the cringe people, in a positive or negative way. I feel like he genuinely has malicious intent, unlike like your average furry artist who's just trying to make something that they like. Like I feel like the nostalgia critic to some degree has hatred in his heart that he expresses in his work, and so for that reason, his media often makes me feel very bad. But there are also times where it like has an earnest sense of innocent fun and playfulness too. Some of his movies are kind of cute sometimes, partly because they're collaborations between him and a lot of people.
Yeah. Like, we recently watched Kick-Ass and, like, Suburban Nights.
Right, and those, while really bad and a slog to get through, possess some charming qualities because they're just very earnest. Whereas, like, if you sit and, like, watch a nostalgia critic normal video, like especially like his review of The Wall or something, like that gives me genuinely like bad, like sick feelings of just like, oh my god, I feel like he's like hexing me, like he's doing evil voodoo on me that's like diminishing my soul.
He doesn't feel like a real person. He feels like a skinwalker.
It's true. He feels like a demon in human skin, you know? Like behind his eyes, there is not the warmth of the human spirit. It's human flesh inhabited by something much more sinister.
Like, I made that little compilation and I had like similar thoughts and feelings in the description where I wrote. It's all like, he doesn't feel like a real person. Like, when you take a closer look, it feels wrong. Like, he's a liminal man created between the spaces of what a internet personality should be. Like, he's just fake. It's like he's not alive.
He is liminal, yeah. He's uncanny. He's Uncanny Valley.
Like, the feelings you get by looking at his face and, like, those little pauses he does after every sentence where he just stares into this camera for a beat too long, it makes him, like... It's the same feeling you get when you, like, watch those, like, compilations of just, like, abandoned pools.
Right.
It's like he's an abandoned person, like he's a husk without a soul.
Oh my god. A person abandoned by God's light, no longer possessing like the chance to reach salvation or enlightenment. It's like, you know that feeling that you get when you look at something and for half a second your pattern recognition in your brain thinks that it sees a face, but then you realize that it's not a face? It's like that, where when you look at him, it's the shape of a man, but when you look closely, it doesn't feel like you're looking at a person, and your brain slowly realizes that the proportions are just off, and
like you look,
something's not right.
You take a closer look, and it turns out to just be like a moth's like defensive patterns to make it look like an owl or something. But instead of there being a moth, there's just another man, like a man having a defensive pattern on his face to appear like a man. I don't know. That feels like a weird thing to say. I don't know how to properly elaborate that.
He expresses a certain kind of sickly duality.
Oh, the axe.
He's almost like he's a man within a...
Oh, this is so bad.
Yeah, finally the axe. I love the axe.
It is so fucking bad.
Why couldn't it be like the old axe? That's so horrible. Why couldn't it be like the Castlevania axe?
Oh, and it takes so long to get off the screen, too.
Yeah, that's fucking horrible. Holy shit, that's bad. Anyway, as I was saying,
Doug Walker feels duality. Like a puppet.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to put it, actually. Because the puppet expresses duality in the fact that there's the puppet master and the puppet body. And for him, it feels like the puppet is made in the image of the puppet master, you know?
Much like how a puppet that...
Holy shit, that's worse! God. That's worse! How is it worse? Holy shit, it couldn't even hit what was right in front of it.
Like, you know how, like, a puppet borrows its soul from its master? It becomes an extension of its master?
And it only lives when its master's will is being done. Otherwise, it's nothing.
Doug Walker feels like the soul that would go into a puppet once the puppet is no longer being puppeted? Or maybe
Oh fuck, that's so dark and true. He feels like the the dark stillness that possesses the empty husk of the puppet when no one's will is being enacted upon it. He feels like the empty space between like the puppet master's will and just oblivion. It's so good. I love that. This could be a poem.
I don't know. You ever like read those stories where it's like, oh, I worked at a gas station in like a forest town, and like every night in like the very darkest, like right where your vision starts to fade to black, I could swear I can see the figure of a man like staring at me through the window. That's like Doug
Right,
Walker.
like generic creepypasta. Yeah.
He is like the
gives
man
that.
at the very edge of like what you can perceive. Where you can
And not
partly
only
like
that,
make it out.
He exists at the edge of what you're able to perceive as possessing that human-like quality. He's pushing the boundary of what you can mentally perceive as another intelligent being, a person.
Have you ever seen any of those
He
like
exists
less
like that.
androids that they use for like teaching dentistry and stuff, where it like moves around but it has like a silicone human face?
お名前は何ですか？今日はどうされましたか？
I don't like how you said flesh android, but I'll take it. Yeah,
Doug
I know,
Walker
like, the
feels
medical
like what
methods.
controls that, but he doesn't feel like that. He feels like the
Yeah.
force that causes it to move.
He he feels like the invisible ghostly kinetic force that propels a mannequin. Doug Walker feels like the lumberjack that cuts the tree down in the woods when no one is there to hear it fall. Like, he is the reason why the tree falls in the woods while no one is around. Doug Walker strangles Schrodinger's cat within the cardboard box. He strangles it to death and determines its fate.
No, Bat, why? He feels like what you would perceive from like an eldritch or alien or like unseelie and like entity, like concealing its identity and taking a form of which your like brain can like perceive. Like, you know it's wrong.
the
You know you're...
projection.
It's like you're looking at something, but you're not looking at its true form. It's like you can see what he truly is, but in your brain, all you can perceive is like the human form, but your brain still registers like in human form.
Doug Walker is the anglerfish light stock being held out by beings that exist beyond our human comprehension in another dimension as bait. He is the anglerfish light stock of the old gods.
He feels like a hyper-realistic portrait came to life and crawled out of itself. Like, he feels like the
He
portrait
feels-
monsters from Ib.
He feels AI generated, is what I think we're getting to here.
He-
He feels like an AI generated man.
I don't even know if I'd say he feels AI generated. He just feels like generated. Like he spawned into the world, like fully formed.
Right, there's no way he was once a child. I mean, have you ever seen a childhood portrait of Doug Walker? No. That's because there never was one. He's always looked the same and he always will. If anything, he will slowly fade and become dry and simply wither away, but not grow old.
I feel like you could put in a pretty convincing argument for like reptilians controlling the elite by like referencing Doug Walker's like entire like being. Like
He is evidence that there are metahumans beyond our perception.
I think it's a bit You remember that fucking like Simpsons and Undertale bit where they're like, "C is yellow, like us," and then Marge says, "C is not one of us. C is Frisk from Undertale." It feels like that, where it's like
See,
implied that he's like not the same species.
I
Like,
hate-
even though they
one, I
look-
want to say that I hate that you referenced that, and I hate that that's how you made that point. And two, I want to say in chronology, like if someone was to go to our channel and watch all our videos in order, like the frequency of you mentioning that shit is so recent that the fact that you brought it up, like, hey, remember this? is so ironic considering that that person would be watching these videos in chronological order would have like just heard you referencing that shit like 5 minutes ago in real time. So,
I really love that video.
I do remember that, and I never wish to see it again.
Like, no video has ever made me laugh harder than fucking Simpsons and Undertale.
I can vouch for that. It's true, and it's actually disturbing to witness in person.
Oh, those guys can run. They can become real. No, I think I was like
That's fucked up.
half drunk when I watched that video, and it made me laugh for like 10 straight minutes.
That's possible, but I feel like even sober, your reaction to the video is unsettling.
No, I had to be drunk, because I like distinctly remember you begging you to like play the video again.
Yeah, I think you've done that on multiple occasions. You literally fucking would beg to watch Simpsons versus Undertale.
It's a really good video.
It's horrible.
Hey, Marge! Look at this human child. It is yellow, like us.
Homer, it's not one of us.